We're here looking at the Odyssey from Nidecker in a 143. It has a waist width of 239 millimeter. This one comes in a 143 all the way up to a 158, which is awesome. It allows a lot of different size people to get on these boards, which I think is great. Yes, let's talk about the Odyssey. So this is a free ride board. It is directional. It's set back. It's a little tapered. So the camber profile on this is a surfy camrock, they call it. So it has a positive camber that goes from under the front foot all the way down through the tail, and then a rocker on the nose. It feels a little bit more locked in than their camrock profile, but it's still a little bit forgiving. It's not a super aggressive camber profile. So the tail is going to be definitely a little bit more power throughout the tail, and the nose is going to allow you to float and kind of play around up there. Also comes with a slight fishtail, just a little bit, and then that's the directional nose. So this is a very fun free ride board. It has a super fun personality, like a lot of Nidecker boards do. It's a cool mix of that free ride personality where it's ready to charge and ready to go, but it still has a little bit of a playful, kind of carefree vibe to it. The base is an N7000 base, so it has a little bit more of a faster, higher quality base. So this comes with a 6 out of 10 flex. It is pretty stable at higher speeds, but not super stiff that it's going to feel overpowering or hard to turn. You're still able to twist it and still able to kind of bend the board when you want to. So I got this in basically some spring conditions. This was my first time on the Odyssey, but even in the spring conditions and the limited snow quality we had here in June now, it was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy this for a free ride board. What I like about it is it's not a really aggressive board. A lot of free ride boards tend to be, you know, super stiff and like uber directional and just kind of like on the other end of the spectrum. This one is definitely directional and it's stable, but it's not like the free ride board that's going to make you be on your game all the time, 100% of the time. Still has a playful personality that I really enjoyed. In the steeps, it felt great. It was really stable. It had a nice edge hold, good contact with the snow. It is a little bit kind of semi-locked in. The nose is still kind of playful, you know, but that camber goes throughout the tail, so it is a little bit more locked in because there's less rocker on the tail. So you get a little bit of a more direct contact point throughout the board as you're riding. I also found it kind of locked in a little bit, like I said, with the tail being the camber throughout the tail. It does hold an edge for a little bit longer than if it were to have a rocker on the tail. So the steeps are fun. Bringing it down into the bumps and kind of off-piste terrain, it was pretty stable. It's easy to maneuver. It is directional, so you do have to work that board underneath you just a little bit more than like a directional twin. It does have a bigger nose on it, but it's for sure doable in the bumps and the steeps. For moguls, I prefer a little bit of a shorter nose, but through chunder and like kind of off-piste, super fun. It would handle really well in the trees, especially in some deeper snow. I didn't get to ride it in the trees, just for reference. We didn't have by the time I got this board, but I did ride it off-piste, and I think it would be a ton of fun in the trees and super fun to turn through there, and especially like on a powder day. I think it would be nimble and quick to turn in some fresh snow for sure. On the Groomers, it was pretty fun. It can definitely hold a little more speed. It is stable. It's fun to carve, but I don't think it's a really aggressive carver. So it is directional, and you do get that positive camber, and it has a nice feel through the tail. It's not washy in the carve at all. You can ride switch on it, which is nice because if you're in these free ride situations and you need to kind of maneuver out of a bad decision choice, you're able to do that. The fishtail isn't super aggressive, so you can totally ride switch on it and it's going to be fine. It's going to feel backwards and it's going to feel a little weird, but it's doable. The butterability of this board it's a little harder to butter. It feels a little stiffer. I was comparing it to the Venus because I rode that just right before this, and they're on the same flex rating as a 6 out of 10, but this one feels stiffer. So it's a little harder to butter. You can do it, but it takes a little bit of extra effort. But it does have some nice pop. So on some natural features, it's got a nice snappy pop to it off of like a side hit or like a cat track groomer or something. It's a lot of fun there. And it's pretty stable as far as like landing and stuff. You gotta land and ride out with a bunch of speed. It holds together pretty well. On ice, it held a nice edge in some icy snow that I got. It was like West Coast spring ice in the morning before the thaw, and it held really nice edge. It doesn't have any side cut disruption at all. It's not going to have as a locked in feel as a board with like a wave along the side cut, but it's going to do pretty good in most conditions. Yeah, so as far as like the freestyle personality of this board, it's more free ride, but definitely playful enough to go find some natural features and kind of hit some rock drops or, you know, little cat tracks or side hits. Fun for that. And because you can ride it switch, you could land switch or take off switch, you have that option, and it has good energy in the pop. It's not a park board, so like you could probably take it through the park and hit like some jumps and stuff, but it's not going to be ideal for most freestyle features. In powder, should perform really well. You already get a setback and you get a taper on it. Just a little bit of setback and a little bit of taper, but it's directional, and you can even set it back a little bit more just to add to that directional float. But I think this would be a ton of fun in powder. I imagine it to be a very solid ride in powder. It should float well. It's not a powder specific board, but it should definitely handle well. I feel like the Odyssey would fit well with a high intermediate rider to advanced expert even. If you are looking for your first freeride board and don't want something that's super aggressive, or if you want a playful freeride board, if you're more advanced rider and you're just looking for a playful freeride board that can handle a lot of different terrain, but it's not something that's going to force you to be on your game all the time. If you're looking for a board that's going to carve pretty well and handle some steeps and float and some powder, the Odyssey would be super fun. Or if you want to just like ride up the resort in a freeride way, the Odyssey felt really fun in a lot of different resort conditions. So if you're looking for a freeride board that has a playful, fun personality, maybe check out the Odyssey from Nidecker.